Our goal in foreign language pedagogy is to bring students to the point where they are autonomous acquirers, prepared to continue to improve on their own. That's Stephen Krashen, one of the most influential researchers in language acquisition. And here's the thing, he's absolutely right. But most language learners never reach that point. I can attest to that with my own experience. Many years ago, when I was still in school, I signed up for a Japanese language class because I was genuinely excited to learn the language. But something strange happened the moment I walked into that classroom. From the second I got homework assignments and structured lessons, I somehow completely lost interest. I never did the tasks at home, which made the whole class experience pretty miserable. And eventually, I just gave up. Fast forward to today, more than 10 years later, I'm studying Japanese again, but this time completely on my own. And I'm putting in more work per day over the last 7 months than I was supposed to do during that entire course per week. Same person, same language, yet completely different outcomes. So what changed? A shift from dependency to autonomy, which might be the most important factor in whether you actually succeed at learning a language or not. Today we're going to explore why learning a language independently might just not be more effective, it might be the only way that works in the long run. We'll also explore how to use your existing interests as learning fuel, and I'll give you a step-by-step roadmap to become that autonomous acquirer Krashen was talking about. Because here's the truth, the best language teacher you're ever gonna have is yourself. Now you might be thinking, but don't I need structure? Don't I need that guide who will show me the path through all the complexities of grammar and vocabulary? We've sort of been conditioned to think that way through our parents and the school system. I used to think the same thing. We sort of wait for permission. We are waiting for that someone who will spoon feed us the right kind of information in the right order. But what that ultimately means is that we want the teacher to be responsible for our progress. I used to be a tutor, and the most frustrating thing was when I'd assess a new student, give them resources and encourage them to start acquiring language outside the comfort of a textbook. Sadly, adult students often refuse to put on a podcast in the background or read one news article a week, instead asking for adapted materials and grammar exercises. Kids, on the other hand, don't sit there calculating how difficult something is or worrying about whether they are ready for it. They just dive in. When you make someone else responsible for your learning, you give away a lot of power. You become passive. You wait for the next lesson, the next assignment, the next explanation. And while you're waiting, you're not actually engaging with the language. The moment I stopped expecting to be taught and started choosing to learn, everything changed. I talked about this extensively in my most popular video that I ever made. The shift from teach me to I learn isn't just philosophical, it's practical. It means you take full ownership of your progress, your materials, your schedule, and most importantly, your results. And this really does change everything. Once you internalize that, it gets really interesting. Stephen Krashen discovered that compelling input appears to eliminate the need for motivation. When you get compelling input, you acquire whether you are interested in improving or not. Think about that for a moment. When you find content that genuinely captivates you, whether it's a Spanish podcast about entrepreneurship or a Japanese anime series, the language becomes the vehicle for something you actually care about. Since we're all busy individuals, you can make use of something called habit stacking. I listen to Spanish podcasts about entrepreneurship while I'm at the gym or running. So in 1 hour, I'm getting 3 powerful habits. I get to move my body, I learn my Spanish, and I learn something new about a topic I'm interested in or a topic that helps me in my career and in my business. And none of that feels like a chore. This is one of the key insights that most language courses miss. Your existing interests are your secret weapon. When you use content and methods that you are genuinely passionate about, everything just becomes so much easier. With Langia, I'm building a platform where the main goal is to give you content for your interests and your level. because finding material that is not too hard to understand can be very difficult. You get daily personalized stories, an always expanding library of podcast episodes with transcripts, and you can turn YouTube videos, web articles, and even entire books into simplified and translated versions. The word level tracking keeps you progressing, and multimedia flashcards are created with a single click. I'm very proud of how Lingear has improved from when I first launched it in October last year, and your feedback shows me that I'm working on the right thing. So thank you. Aside from finding the right content, one thing you need to understand is that learning a language takes time. You won't get fluent in 3 months, or 6 months, or even a year, depending on how you define fluency and how much time you really invest in the language. The good thing is that it doesn't really matter, because you will enjoy the process when you enjoy the methodology. I recently saw another comment where someone talked about the get rich slow principle. So many people are talking about and interested in getting rich quickly. But if we're thinking about it, getting rich slowly isn't that bad either. And of course it seems more realistic. Instead of trying to cram grammar rules and vocabulary lists as much and as fast as possible, you give your brain oceans and oceans of content that you actually want to consume. Your brain figures it out over time naturally, the same way it learned your first language. The only requirements: show up every day and find content that is at your level or slightly above your level that interests you. And then trust the process and be patient. But beyond this compelling input advantage, there are 4 main reasons why going solo beats traditional methods anytime. We go over these next before talking about how to best do it on your own. First, complete flexibility and control. When you're in charge, you can speed up through concepts you grasp quickly and slow down for stuff you find tricky. You don't need to sit through explanations of grammar you already understand or don't even care about, because maybe you trust your brain to pick them up inductively. And you're not being rushed past topics you need more time with. You also study when it fits your life. Maybe that's early morning, maybe that's during lunch break, or after dinner. And of course, you have no commuting time to a class. Just use that time to read a book or listen to a podcast in your target language. Second, which kind of builds on that, true personalization. So this goes beyond just choosing your own material. You can focus on vocabulary that's actually relevant to your goals. If you're learning German for business, for example, memorizing the names of zoo animals is probably not on top of your list of priorities. You adapt everything to your learning style, whether you're more visual, auditory, or need to write things down to remember them. And when you finally have conversations in your target language, your vocabulary will be incredibly rich in the areas you care about. Instead of being good at generic phrases about hobbies in general, you'll be able to express complex ideas about your specific hobbies. If you're into photography, you won't just know I like taking pictures. You know terms like aperture, composition, and depth of field. This depth, again, makes conversations so much more interesting and engaging. Third is cost and efficiency. Apps, books, and online courses usually cost a fraction of what you'd pay for classes or tutors. Many high-quality resources are completely free. YouTube is the greatest school in the world, and I'm happy to be a little part of that. And fourth is the psychological freedom. This might be the most important one. There is no classroom anxiety. No pressure to keep up with classmates who might be at a different level or being bored by the slow progress. You build real confidence and self-discipline because every part of the progress is yours. You're not competing with anyone or worrying about being judged. You can make mistakes privately, repeat difficult sections as many times as you need, and celebrate progress on your own terms. Alright, let's get practical. Here's exactly how to transition from dependent learner to autonomous acquirer, broken down by stages. Stage number 1 is foundation building. This is for beginners. One of the most important skills as a language learner that carries through all stages, but is even more important in the beginning, is the ability to find the best learning materials for you personally. You should set some time aside every 2 weeks or so to just do a little bit of research. Find new YouTube channels, podcasts, and other resources that keep you engaged. Remember that you are responsible for your discipline and motivation as an autonomous acquirer. So remember the Krashen quote, compelling input appears to eliminate the need for motivation. Find that compelling input. Start with comprehensible input videos, content where you can understand the gist even if you don't know every word. The visual context helps enormously. I would also suggest that you do some grammar priming, meaning you get a little bit of an understanding how the language works, but not in detail and without doing any exercises. I'd strongly suggest that you use multiple resources that you find enjoyable for this. For example, I have an anime-based Anki deck that explains the grammar concepts from Tai Kim's book, and I also watch YouTube videos that explain the chapters in the Genki textbook, whenever I feel too lazy to do anything else. Or just use multiple beginner books from different perspectives rather than sticking to just one. This gives you varied explanations of these same concepts. And again, most importantly, don't worry about tests, exercises, or even memorizing anything at this stage. Set simple daily goals, like watch one 10-minute video or read 2 pages. Your main goal here is to build a habit. Consistency beats intensity. It might also help you to do your sessions around the same time every day or combined with the same activities. For example, always before having dinner or something like that. Stage 2 is the lower intermediate stage, and this is all about pattern recognition. We want to do lots of listening to keep developing an ear for the language and incorporate some intensive reading. This means you can use a dictionary to go through some content that you are reading. Don't worry about understanding everything. When you're curious about a grammar point you encounter, look it up, read it up, and then forget about mastering it. Your main job is absorption, not analysis. Stage 3 is fluency building, which is upper intermediate. This is where extensive reading becomes crucial. You should find material where you understand 90 to even 98% of what you read and then just read it without looking up words. Add more podcasts and native media, and if you like it, start writing regularly, even if it's just journaling about your day. This will help you to transition from input to output. Because in the end, your goal is not just understanding, but also speaking. Create reading streaks and celebrate small wins. This stage can feel very, very long, and it's entirely normal. There will be weeks or even months where you feel like you're not making any progress or even feel like you are getting worse. Your brain is still organizing and reorganizing patterns subconsciously. This is known as the intermediate plateau, and I dedicated a whole video to the subject. Stage 4 is advanced integration. Continue extensive reading, but add speaking practice. Talk to yourself, record voice memos, find conversation partners online. By the way, during the whole process, it's okay to take breaks when you need them. Sometimes stepping away for a few days actually helps your brain consolidate what you've learned. The beauty of independent learning is there's no external pressure to follow a schedule. Remember that progress, it doesn't go like that. It's not linear. And finally, don't be afraid to experiment. Try different methods, different materials, different schedules. And as long as you engage with the language, you are improving, even if you don't feel like you do. Now, these tips were mostly focused on acquiring a language, on understanding. But you might be thinking, what about actually speaking it? How do I make the transition from being able to understand everything to being able to express my own thoughts fluently? That's exactly what I cover in my video about going from input to output. I break down these specific strategies for making that leap from passive understanding to active communication, including the biggest mistakes that people do when they attempt to start to speak too early. So check that out next, and I see you next time. Thank you for watching.